Good morning. I'm getting ahead of myself. It's not the afternoon. Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Welcome back to the follow-up sessions. We've got a really interesting mid-morning planned with a bit of an enterprise focus, interspersed with a keynote from Cisco as well, which we're really, really pleased to have Cisco's gold sponsors really interested to what Marcel's got to say. From the Cisco side. But first of all, we wanted to take you through some Cavell-focused enterprise research. Just before lunch, we're going to have a panel of enterprises that I'm really looking forward to give you some real enterprise insight. But we wanted to take you through some research. And for anyone who's in our US event, I did something rather cruel and got Finbarr on stage and quizzed him about some research he's commissioned. And this time, we've decided to reverse the roles, and Finbarr will quiz me. So this could go anyway.
Yeah, it's really fun and exciting.
I don't know.
Hello? Hey, hello. Yeah, no, this is great. So, Patrick, as you say, you're fully on the hook this time.
Yeah.
Because I haven't even read most of this.
No. Oh, good. No, that's good to know.
But we're going to dive straight in. So, really, you know, we have a whole process for sitting down and figure out what we're going to actually survey on. And this time I said, well, what the hell do people actually want to know about enablement? We need to answer that question. So what was your thought process to answer that question to me?
Well, so what we focused on in this specific research, we wanted to look specifically at decision makers who have bought collaboration platforms. So we got 602 decision makers, and we screened these decision makers to make sure they're either in charge of IT or in a small business, they're a business owner. Finbarr leads all of our enterprise research, so we make sure we're getting the answers from the right people. 602 decision makers across North America and the UK and Ireland, and they had to have bought one of the collaboration platforms you can see on screen. So as you can see, 25% had purchased Webex, 90% had purchased Microsoft Teams. We didn't ask whether it was part of a bundle or not, and 78% had purchased Zoom. As you can see, the eagle-eyed view will notice those percentages do not total 100%, because many businesses run multiple collaboration estates and have aspects of Webex, aspects of Zoom, aspects of Microsoft Teams as well. So those were the demographics in terms of the collaboration. In terms of the methodology, and Finbarr, as I said, you run all of our enterprise research. We go through a planning stage, just so you're aware of how we do this, and then we go out to online survey, we screen the respondents and various. But anything you'd like to add to general enterprise research methodology?
I just think that to emphasize, like, you know, if you work with us, if you speak to us on a regular basis, you could always be thinking, is there a question that I don't know about the enterprise that I need Cavell's input on, or I'd like to see? Because, I mean, especially if you come to these events multiple times, we're always presenting some piece of enterprise research we've done. And if, you know, you're thinking, next year I would love it if the enablement survey answered this question that I've got, like, do just let us know, because, you know, we like that sort of feedback, to be honest.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say a lot of the questions in this were actually, a lot of the questions in this survey were directly feedback that we'd had from customers. And I'll come on to exactly why that is in a little bit. And there will be a report available that I haven't written yet. But that will become available in a couple of weeks post-event. But that's a bit about the methodology. Just briefly on the size of where the respondents came from in terms of organization size. As you can see, the largest proportion of respondents came from what we call the enterprise sector. So that's number of employees. That's not number of collaborative users or telephony users. That's the size of the organization. So that's just a little bit about who the data you're going to see, who that's from, and where they are in what type of business.
So let's actually just start getting to the meat then. So why specifically are people choosing one platform over another one, and which ones are they choosing?
Well, really good question. So the first thing we asked is, so we know that they've bought one of those collaboration platforms. We know that a lot of them run more than one. We asked, what was your primary collaboration platform? And as you can see, 60% of them said that Microsoft Teams was their primary collaboration platform, 30% Zoom, around 12% said Webex. So those are, I think it's important to line up, first of all, that people do have a primary collaboration platform. And I don't think we can get away, I'm not sure if Taimur's here in the audience, but Microsoft did a tremendous job of bundling Teams within 365 originally. We know that's been unbundled now, but we'll come on to why people have selected their primary collaboration platform now. And as you can see, these were the reasons that were given to us for enterprises about why they selected that particular collaboration platform. So reliability and performance, ease of use and familiarity, I think, is key to Microsoft Teams' success here. Everyone is familiar with the 365 suite. Everyone is familiar with the productivity applications. The user interfaces is very similar. The user experience is very similar. And that ease of use and familiarity piece, I think, is key. One of the ongoing themes of today, and you'll be talking about contact center later, and I talked about integration in the keynote this morning, Taimur talked about it from a Microsoft side in terms of the new Teams SDK suite. Ease of integration is absolutely key. I'd be really interested to hear from the enterprises on Tom's panel about the challenges that integration poses and from an enterprise perspective. So in terms of platform rationale, those are the key things that we saw.
Just putting myself into the shoes of the audience based on the word cloud that we had earlier, price obviously is not.
Is this going to get me to do a dance? Is that?
No, you're not going to have to dance. You might have to dance around with your answer. But price is obviously not the top of the selection rationale, but clearly a lot of what came out earlier is, margin consciousness, which obviously ties into price consciousness. But why do you think that price is not top of the platform selection choice when we know that it is still important to customers?
It does vary by, as I said, it does, and you know this from other enterprise research, it does vary by business size. So as soon as you start, if I'd isolated this for the micro business sector, they would be much more price conscious. And there's also a distinction to be made there, I think, between price and value as well as an option. But I think, and we do get some survey bias as well, where you don't necessarily want to say the price, that you're always after the cheapest thing. So I think there's probably a couple of reasons why price isn't there. But I think reliability and performance, and in the past we've seen brand reputation, which you can see comes forward here. Brand reputation comes up very highly. So I think there's a few key things that are above, especially in larger businesses, the price is a key factor.
Absolutely. So I think, moving on then, I think we had this question about business telephony use overall might be declining, but then collaboration use is going up. So what does that really tell us about the layout of the landscape?
Yeah, so that's a really key point here. And I think anyone who knows Cavell Research, if you're a Cavell Research customer as a service provider or a telco in the audience, one of the phenomena that we've been talking about in developed markets is the declining overall business telephony market. So the number of users that have a business phone line is declining in all the developed markets that we look at. So North America, the UK, Western Europe, some of the developed Asian markets, you are seeing a decline in the overall numbers. On screen here you can see the USA is in the dark blue and Western Europe in light blue at the top. As I said, if we isolate the US, around about 82 million business telephony users, declining pretty significantly towards 2030. The phenomenon behind that is one that I think we've been told by so many service providers in this room. Generally, and I'd be interested again for the enterprise opinion on this, when you migrate from a premises-based system, you might have 1,000 users all with DDIs. When you migrate to a collaboration platform, so it might be Webex calling, for example, you don't tend to see a one-to-one concurrent migration. We are seeing these business telephony markets decline. So to your point, you're absolutely right. We're seeing these markets decline. Collaboration telephony, however, is resistant to that. And we are seeing the numbers increase. Now, and there's a couple of reasons that I'll come on behind that. So the graph on the left is, I've isolated just the UK data, as we're in the UK. If anyone's interested in any other markets, please do speak to the sales guys at Cavell. They would love to sell a new report in another market. So if we look here, I've isolated the numbers for, this is all types of telephony enablement. So Microsoft Teams, Webex calling, and Zoom phone. As you can see, all of the numbers go up and right. So that bucks a general trend in telephony that we're seeing. And why do we think that is? The pie chart on the right, the reason for the very similar green colors is I've tried to group those into anyone that is already in an expansion of the number of telephony users, so they're already rolling out telephony to new collaboration users. They've got it planned in the next 12 months, or they're going to have it planned for longer than 12 months. So as you can see, more than 60% of the organizations that we surveyed are actually increasing then already the number of users internally that they're going to equip with external telephony within their collaboration platform. As to why that is, we asked a couple of questions. So, does PSTN telephony in collaboration justify the cost? As you can see, vast majority of organizations told us, yes, it does justify the value. This is one of the key questions that we were concerned about. And Finbarr and I, and Tom, and then the research team, we've had lots of feedback from providers in the room that, we're not sure that necessarily the telephony value proposition is right. We're not sure we're getting that across. Overall, the vast majority of enterprises think that telephony does justify the cost in collaboration. And then again, the pie chart on the right, we asked, do or do you not think telephony is going to become more important in the future? And again, I color-coded these so that the two slightly green ones, over 50% of the enterprises that we spoke to said that they think telephony and collaboration platforms is going to become more important in the future. As to why that is, and I'd love your opinion on this, AI and voice is such rich data, and you see it in the contact center as well. It's such important data. Do you think that's maybe why voice and telephony is that businesses think that's going to be more important in the future?
Well, I mean, what we're talking about essentially is the increasing integration of services, including the contact center, in order to get data to flow between those integrated services. And that conversational data, high fidelity, voice-powered conversational data being stored, used in applications for knowledge. If you think about a collaboration platform, you know, your Zooms with your workspace integrations, how much you can power different use cases with conversational data within those integrations, within collaboration, becomes such a vital use case for the future. So AI definitely has to be a factor of not just why are we, you know, we're getting rid of some of our telephony, but we're actually focusing on telephony in collaboration. And that is because of that. I think the other thing, of course, is that ease of use and familiarity thing that we keep coming back to. You know, one of the things we're seeing in the contact center, and one of the things that's massively driving enablement in the contact center, which we'll talk about more later, is taking the contact center interaction to where the person who isn't a contact center agent in your company is.
Yeah, that idea of the connected enterprise through the collaboration. And I think the other important thing about voice, you mentioned, I think that's a really key point. You know, it is probably the most familiar communication medium, but also the number of alleles of data you get from a voice or telephony interaction compared to an asynchronous message is tenfold in terms of tone, sentiment, timing, all of those things. You get so much rich data from voice. Exactly.
So that's kind of the landscape. I guess the question then that we really wanted to focus on, especially this year, is because we kind of have been tracking these trends as to why people are adopting. But this year you especially said to me, look, can we find out why the people who haven't got telephony and collaboration haven't done it? And that was the big question that we wanted to try and answer.
Yeah, we got feedback from a number of our research customers that, oh, you've provided us a load of great research as to why people have added it. Why haven't they? And so, first of all, I wanted to address, and I pick on Microsoft here, and my apologies to the Microsoft team, but it's just because you provided the most comprehensive data in terms of numbers. So what you can see on screen are the public announcements of Microsoft's monthly active users. So we haven't used the Cavell figures, although we do have our own forecast. So as of 2024, 320 million monthly active users. On our Cavell forecast, we think that will be 400 million users by now on Microsoft Teams. When we talk about PSTN telephony-enabled users, these are Microsoft's numbers again, not Cavell's, only 20 million. So out of that base of 320 million monthly active users, only 20 million adding PSTN telephony. That's only around 6% of the user base who are adding telephony. So first of all, I think it is a really pertinent question as to why proportionally the adoption of telephony and collaboration is low. So we tried to answer that with the research.
And can I just jump in that my initial impression, and I said, this will come back in the data, 100%, the answer we're going to get is they just don't need it. They used to buy a phone line for everyone. They've now realized they don't need a phone line for everyone. So then when the data came back, lo and behold,
the data came back. Oh, I've got a little Slido question as well here. So why? First of all, it would be really interesting to why you think, and we'll come on to the data that Finbarr talked about, but why do you think phone adoption in the collaboration platforms is so low? So, and that's I picked on Microsoft there, but that's just because they've provided the most complete data. If you look at the number of overall Zoom users or the number of overall Webex users, I think the proportion would be highest in Webex. But we'd love your opinion on why phone adoption and collaboration is low, limited need for external calling, high costs, complexity, preference for mobile solutions, integration challenges, or anything other. And I think you get a write-in option there as well. So really interested for your feedback on that. Finbarr, your bet was on limited need for external calling?
Yeah, I just thought, maybe they just don't need as many phone numbers as they needed before, right? I mean,
because we do peer-to-peer on net calling, all of those things have negated that. And I think that's what we're getting back from the audience, that maybe it's limited need for external calling. So what did the data show from our 600 decision makers? Limited need for external calling was the primary factor of why. So this is organizations that haven't enabled PSTN telephony for all of their users. So anyone that hadn't done it for 100% of their users.
Before I sit here completely, smug in my self-righteous, a position of, I told you so. You challenged me immediately on this, and I thought the answer you gave was really interesting. is that it's not just a picture of people maybe don't need external calling. There's deeper messages in here as well.
Yeah, it's a really interesting. I think we've replaced a lot of that functionality internally with, as we said, peer-to-peer on net, with video calling, with improved messaging functionality, and as you can see from the data here, preference for mobile solutions is a really interesting one. Microsoft have Teams for mobile, Cisco have Webex Go. There are mobile solutions within the collaboration platform. But we also saw here, you mentioned price as being a key factor. We also saw high implementation costs and budgetary restrictions and complexity. So there are sort of myriad of reasons, and this is just sort of scratching the surface of the data. Again, this did vary by vertical and geography, so if anyone is interested in more details on that, do let us know and we can carve that data up a bit more. Final one.
Final, yeah.
Yeah. So, final one was what can you do as service providers to encourage businesses to expand telephony? And this is the answer that came back from enterprises. Better integration. We talked about integration so much. Microsoft mentioned it. Zoom mentioned it. I'm sure Marcel will touch on that in terms of the ecosystem. Better integration with IT infrastructure, easier integration is critical to that. The one I've highlighted in purple here, increased demand from internal users, that is really challenging. We had a really interesting chat in the office the other day. We are not sure that, as an industry, we've ever had to articulate the value proposition of business phone calls because it's been so ubiquitous. It's been the historical leading medium. But maybe we do need to get back to articulating the value proposition of telephony. And so that I highlighted in purple as I think is the most challenging. But all of the other things I think on the list, easier deployment and management tools, there's a number of people and businesses and sponsors in the audience today that help with that. So if you're a service provider, you can improve deployment and manageability. You can either lower costs or improve the bundling. You can improve support and partner training. So I think there's a lot of things we can do, but maybe the biggest challenge is how do we address that demand for telephony?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, as you said, I think one of the most interesting things is that question of as we get into the age of younger companies, startups who don't understand the complexity that can be delivered by telephony, do we suddenly have to start advocating again for telephony's benefits in a business? I mean, that's a really interesting concept, I think, for the industry to consider, and probably revealed by this research.
Everyone, round of applause for Finbarr, who will be back this afternoon for the customer experience side of our track.
Well, round of applause for Patrick, who did this research and talked you through it.
Thank you.